Hello once again, folks. This is another awesome episode of Customizing the Clone Wars. This is episode 35, and I am your host, as always, Peak Obi-Wan from Peak Obi-Wan Custom Creations on Facebook. Along with me, I have my co-host. His name is Brian Fulton, otherwise known as Darth Daddy from the Customs for the Kid blogspot. Sorry about that.
That's
How
right.
you doing tonight, man? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. We had a big snowstorm, so I tried to stay warm today and stay out of the snow. Did a lot of customizing over the weekend. Caught up on a lot of works in progress that I had. I tried to wrap them up and get them done, and I was successful. So it was a good weekend.
Very cool. Yeah, I do the same thing. You know, it's just nice to sit down and, get in the hot seat and start working on something, right? It's not always, it's not always Clone Wars, but yeah, I do other things than Clone Wars, folks. So I did a little bit of dabbling in some original trilogy stuff, but of course, I'm deep in the Clone Wars as well. And that was just fun to do some new stuff. So like I said, this is episode 35, and this is the season opener of what is affectionately called Secrets Revealed. This is season 3 of the Clone Wars. And what we do on this show is we talk toys, don't we? We talk everything there is to know about custom toys. The special ones, right?
Yeah, we basically pay tribute to the Clone Wars TV animated series. We basically build action figures of the characters that were never made and we really wanted. And there's a good chance that you really want some of these characters too, and you always wanted to see what they look like if they were ever a toy, and you'll get to see it here. That's what we do. Today we're doing Clone Cadets, which actually, even though it's the first episode of season 3, this was, I guess, in the chronological order, it's one of the earliest episodes.
That's correct. That's correct. Because it's called Secrets Revealed, we get classic, or maybe you don't even know this, we get classic George Lucas. He's a dabbler, right? He constantly wants to go back or jump forward in time. And we're actually seeing that happen today with Disney. You know, they are jumping forward and backwards in time. And, the people who don't know Star Wars like we do, it might be a little bit daunting, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, because when you think about the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy, there were no flashbacks. And like you said, we did get that in Rogue One. I don't know if I guess I would say Rey's vision in Force Awakens is a flashback sequence.
For sure.
But yeah, in a sense, beginning of season 3 is really a flashback episode.
Yeah, he did a lot of episodes where he went in and he was like, I want to know what happened before that episode. And everybody probably scratched their head. They were like, well, okay, we can't tell George no. Let's go with it. And they certainly came out with a lot of cool things. And this was the first half of the episode, or the first half of the season that they did this, folks. It was cool. I liked it. I just wish, I honestly want it to be in order at some point. Give us a whole Clone Wars that's actually in order.
Oh, I want that box set where, you could just play from beginning to end. When you watch it on disc or when you watch it on Netflix, you have to watch it in the order that things were released. But if they really went and they put together a really nice box set of everything going chronologically and maybe threw in the lost missions and some of that bonus stuff that we've been getting at some of the celebrations, that would be ideal.
I agree. And if you haven't seen it in order, you should watch it, especially now it's on Netflix. So you can you can stream it and you can, stop it and start it with very little time in between it.
And there's plenty of information online. If you don't have the episode guide, I think Reddit has a thread about it. You could do a Google search and it'll tell you the chronological order of the Clone Wars. Write it down on a little piece of paper, get your Netflix, grab the remote and go to town. And to me, that's my favorite way to watch the Clone Wars is chronologically.
Yeah, and as I look at the episode guide that you're just talking about, this is a DK book. I literally got this at Barnes & Noble or a books. You know, you can probably get it at bookstores. It might even be out of print at this point. I know it's kind of hard to get, but I found it in the kids section of all things. You know, it's primarily a kids show, but we certainly love it, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, as much as it was marketed towards kids, there was a lot of stuff in there: torture, decapitations. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of really heavy things that, like, slavery. Um, I- there was just as much in there for adults, I would say, as there was for kids. And
I
I
agree
think a
with
lot
you.
of people mistakenly thought it was directed towards children, and they weren't expecting any adult themes to be in there, but they were there. And if you're an adult that was avoiding the show for whatever reason, maybe because you thought it was more for children, just ignore all that. Watch the show. You're probably going to be privy to some of the best Star Wars that was ever created.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. This is just, it's the war. You know, I recently told a friend of mine, he was asking me, should I get involved and watch Rebels? And I'm like, well, honestly, you really need to watch all the animation. You have to watch the Clone Wars
Everything.
first, everything. You really got to get involved with it. So I was like, it's really up to you. But I think you need the Clone Wars to really make Rebels a little bit more interesting, especially with all
And
the
the prequels, for
integration.
that matter.
Right. Yeah. And he was telling me, you know, he's a prequel hater. He's a prequel hater. I mean, I have friends that are prequel haters. I mean, there are just people that have their own opinions, you know, and not
Yeah.
everybody can be as an Uber fan as I am, and I have to come to grips with that. I suppose you know, I can't just shun him away because he's like a childhood friend. You know what I'm saying? But I told him he really needed to see it all, and yeah, what you were talking about. This is that episode guide again. You can see on the front page they just show it all in order. The book, the episode guide. The beauty of the episode guide is that the book is in order, and it gives you just this full reflection of how it played out, right? So I'm going to read from that right now. Clone Cadets originally aired. It was episode 1, season 3, September 17th, 2010. So back, still way back in 2010, we are doing the entire story, the entire everything that we can cover. We're going to put customs with it. It's going to be awesome. So here we go. It says, on Camino, Domino Squad, made up of 5 clone cadets, Echo, 5's heavy, droid bait, and cut up, struggled to complete the training exercise necessary for graduation. Jedi Master Shakti oversees their training and faces a hard decision. If the feuding clones of Domino Squad don't learn to work together quickly, she will have to reject them as an unfit for military duty. That is pretty intense, don't you think?
Oh yeah. I think what was interesting for me in this episode, it showed that that feeling of brotherhood was not ingrained in these clones. It was something that was learned. The ones who grasped onto that concept very quickly and worked as a team did very well, but you saw that the ones who didn't have that desire, and had a more selfish attitude, didn't do quite as well in their training. And I don't know if that has something to do with maybe them being Jango Fett. Did he was a clone, he was basically a bounty hunter who worked on his own, and he maybe all that time working solo put him in or gave him the perspective of not having that team attitude or that feeling of brotherhood in any which way, and that was reflected in the clones of him.
I agree with that. And later on, in later seasons, they even talk about how they had to stretch the DNA code, and sometimes some of the things were starting to get lost in the sequence. So,
Yep.
And maybe he was just maybe he was a loner, like you said, you know, not really learning to be part of a team, or maybe he was a team though, if you think about it, because he was constantly hanging out with all the people that Boba Fett was hanging out with too. You know.
Yeah. Well, if I don't, did you ever read the Zam Wessel comic?
No, or you know what? I have a couple of them. I do have a couple of them, but I didn't get through all of it.
Yeah, he worked well with her, I guess, in those comics, and there was a whole like storyline that went on there. I have a very, very limited exposure to the expanded universe.
Yeah.
That just happened to be one of the Dark Horse series that I picked up on because she was an interesting character to me. But you saw how they were really close, and then you see what happens to her in Attack of the Clones. You definitely, based on that comic, which is not canon at this point, but based on that comic and then watching Attack of the Clones, you definitely get, she was in love with him, essentially.
Yeah.
Is the way it came out in these stories, but he had no problem killing her.
Yeah. I think she messed up way too many times, too, for sure. Well, let's get into this thing, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let me go to our usual fortune cookie that we share before every episode. And here it is. It says, brothers in arms are brothers for life. What do you think about that?
I agree. I'm a former military man, and I still keep in touch with all the guys I was stationed with.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, we definitely saw that too, even with people that aren't necessarily you know, a clone of you in Rebels, didn't we? With Saul Guerrera, right? We see Rex and Saul Guerrera, and they are just like old buddies. You know, they do that classic. What was that? Oh, remember Predator? Remember the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Him and the other guy, Apollo Creed. They do that that same thing where
the arms and the hugs and
the arms and hugs and whatnot. You're just like, yep, here we are. We're back into it, right? Yeah, I think this is great. This is a key to the end result after they go through all the issues. But before I get into it, I just wanted to show. Do you know how many figures they actually made for this episode alone? Just for this episode. This is Hasbro I'm talking about.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, then they did a couple of the ARC Troopers too. So
Sure
5, 6, about 7 maybe.
It's actually, if you use the regular clone trooper, it's 11, and I'll just show you 10 real quick. So we got Heavy, we got Cut Up. We have Shakti, Ellis,
I forgot about her.
Brick, the super battle droid that's a kind of a test droid, a Colt, the ARF trooper that's really awesome. It's on that like hoverboard. I thought that one was really neat. Blitz, his name is Blitz. Havoc, those are both ARC troopers. Like I said, the clone trooper, you can essentially use it if you're trying to set up a diorama. You know what I'm saying? So there's 10, but I have an 11th character that I'm not going to show yet because that's our Easter egg. So we'll get into this thing, and right after we get started, do you recognize this shot? Basically, this shot is an image from Rookies, right? So they're kind of bringing us back into, they're describing what's going on, and they're kind of hearkening back, if you will, to tell us that this episode is about those characters. So this was a clip from Rookies, you know what I'm saying?
And that's the one that took place on Rishi Moon, correct?
That's right. That's right. So this is the episode that predates that, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It predates it. But this episode that we're talking about tonight is actually before we meet them. So it's kind of a prequel, a prequel episode, right?
And this is the prequel.
A prequel to the prequel, right? And this is kind of what I was talking about or referring to with George Lucas. He's notorious for kind of doing this kind of thing where he wants to jump around and stuff. And I don't think it was necessarily, well accepted right off the bat either. You know what I'm saying? I think people thought it was kind of confusing, but to get back into it, I don't have a problem with it. So they show us another thing also connecting to the beginning of the show, and now we're starting to realize that they're going to be put in a specific order. So, and this is a clip from Hidden Enemy. So basically how they go, and I encourage you to watch it. It's Cat and Mouse, Hidden Enemy, the Clone Wars theatrical release, and then this episode that we're talking about, Clone Cadets. So we're just kind of building upon that full story, you know. So we saw that, and here we are. We finally get the first images of Camino, and I don't know about you, but I love this. I just thought it was great. They started using water. You know what I'm saying? A lot more.
Oh yeah, the world building that they did in the Clone Wars was just amazing.
Yeah,
I wish that we got the kind of world building that we got in the animated series reflected in the theatrical releases, because they really they did a great job.
Yeah, and we went to some really great places too. I'm kind of bummed out we never went to Dantooine, you know, like we did in the micro series, you know?
Yeah.
I always thought that was supposed to be kind of an important world or something, you know?
Yeah.
or even some of the EU worlds like Ord Mantell and Nal Hutta, or well, we go to Nal Hutta. We go. I'm thinking about Nar Shaddaa. There goes my EU knowledge, but yeah, there's a lot more worlds that I kind of wish we went to, you know, among all these cool worlds that we saw in the Clone Wars. And here's Shaak Ti. She's basically shown training these. She's kind of like the Den Mother. You know, I think these clone troopers, they would have a problem killing her the most.
Yeah, right.
You know, because she's kind of their person. You know, where Yoda in Ambush shows that he can teach them about themselves. She really does that same thing here as well. She's molding these troopers to be pretty amazing, right? And
she does have that tough love, though. When Brick and Ellis, they're having that conversation, and Brick's like, these guys aren't cutting it, and Ellis tries to stick up for them. Shaak Ti sided with Brick. She was like, well, he's kind of right. And when Brick tried to, if you see, at the end of the episode, he tries to get the best of Domino Squad, and she's like, well, you have to overcome adversity in the field. Like, she didn't advocate for them in that sense and say like, oh, they're getting an unfair they're just, we're not being fair with them. They're not getting the same test that everyone else gets. But while she did advocate for them, at the same time, she was okay with tough love.
For sure. That's why I'm surprised she didn't make it out of the Clone Wars, or did she? Who knows? Or
according to Force Unleashed, she did.
Yeah, I know. I kind of wish it went that route, or it still goes that route in some way, shape, or form. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Along with her training, she employs bounty hunters because they see this kind of rough fighting all the time, this kind of war type fighting, gunfights, if you will, all the time. And they're hardened by it, and they're perfect examples of people maybe they want to share with the clone troopers their experiences and whatnot. So they're kind of the coaches, right? Brick is definitely a coach type of character. He's just hilarious. He's like, you guys better get it right. And I thought he was great. But so we have these two bounty hunters, and this is going to lead us to our first custom of the night. Like I said, we did get two characters. We got Heavy, of course, and then we got Cut Up. But we didn't get the rest of the group. And that, like I said, is going to lead us to our first customs of the night. And you did all of the troops, didn't you?
Yeah, I was on vacation last week, and I've been wanting to get them all done for a long time. And I was like, this episode's coming up. I might as well do it now. I had a bunch of Heavy figures set aside for it. I was debating whether or not to weather them. And because I only had 3 extras, and I had, the real Cut Up, and I had the real heavy, and I have this rule in the house: you only customize doubles. You never, if you only have one of a figure, you don't customize it.
Wow.
You got to keep something at least Hasbro, you know.
Yeah, Hasbro.
I'm Hasbro pure in the house, so essentially when it came time to do the other three, I had to do them so they matched the Hasbro figures. So that's essentially what I did. I painted over the ones, and at first I started painting the numbers in, and when it came down to like putting the individualized numbers on their thighs, I was like, this is insane. And I ended up using a fine point permanent marker to do
That's
it.
a good way to do it. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and I highly recommend, if anyone's ever going to do this, I really recommend that's the way you do it. This weekend, I worked on the Cham Syndulla. I finally finished my Clone Wars version of him. He was like work in progress for a while, and the thing that I had put off was the tattoos. And because the Domino Squad went so well, I ended up doing the tattoos on Cham Syndulla with the fine point marker as well. The only thing I would definitely put out there for everybody, I was all done with these guys and I sprayed them with the dull coat. Dull coat takes off permanent marker.
That's interesting.
And they started to bleed. I'm like, it's like when you're finally done and then you spray them. I sprayed them all at once. So I just watched them all like going at the same time. Oh, it was a nightmare. But
yeah,
so
I think dull coat has alcohol in it.
Yep.
To some extent. So alcohol will take off pretty much any ink. I work in the sign industry in the course of the day, and I'm constantly using alcohol to pretty much remove anything. So that's definitely a good tip for people. Those look great.
Yeah, do the paint on sealer if you're going to do it. Paint on sealer all the way. Do not use dull coat if you're using the permanent marker.
Yeah. Well, those look great. Wow. Yeah, I run into that same thing every once in a while. Do I, affect my only version of the character, or do I save it? What do you do with all your figures that are untouched? What do you do with those? Do you display them?
They're displayed right alongside. Yeah, they're displayed right alongside my customs, like my Clone Wars shelf that's over here and up there. Both of them have a mix of custom figures and of the Hasbro figures. Domino Squad isn't on there though because I just don't have room for them right now. They're probably going to end up in a baggie and in a drawer until we decide to pull them out to play. Which, man, now that Elias is getting older, those play days are disappearing.
Yeah,
which is kind of sad.
You're going to have to think about a new way to display them somehow.
Yeah, I just need another Star Wars room, maybe. I don't know. Maybe when we get a house.
Yeah.
One day, I want a tiny house, so maybe when he gets a house one day, he could figure it all out. And
there you go. There you go. Well, let's get back to this episode. We find Domino Squad, and they're in the midst of their training, and we find out that they cannot work together, like you said, and they keep failing. And this was this was one of the tests before their scheduled tests when the big wigs come down, the ARC troopers, right? There's going to be one more test after this, and they did terrible on this one too. They didn't make it to the top, so that's not good. And here they're leaving the Citadel course, and this is actually our Easter egg. Do you see the Easter egg in there anywhere? And this is also, not only is it the Easter egg.
Assuming it's the Naboo droid.
Yes.
The one that was in episode 1, that little yellow droid over there.
Yes, there it is. It's called the utility droid. It's like the Star Wars equivalent of a Roomba, an iRobot or something like that, right?
Yeah, the Republic mouse droid almost.
And if you are into doing what we're doing and making the entire squad and maybe even making a whole Citadel course, they actually made this toy at one point in time. It was in a Phantom Menace accessories pack. And I don't know how hard they are to get. I don't have it anymore simply because
The
I thought it
accessory
was.
packs are rather easy to get. I mean, it's been a while since I've had to track them down. I bought them all for Elias years ago, like a
Yeah.
stocking stuffers or something. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think they're not that expensive. I know you could probably find it for less than $20.
There you go. Yeah, so they were these little accessory packs, if it was before your time, they had this good idea that maybe they would put something that you could kind of pull back and it like took off by itself. Kind of a genius idea. The more and more I think about it.
I wish they
But
still made stuff like that.
yeah, but of course not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
You know what's cool?
ingenuity
You know,
is.
Luke Skywalker actually made a diorama of that whole training room.
Did he really?
I totally forgot. I wish I pulled up the images. He even sold it at some point.
My goodness. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? Next week, let's get that image and we'll just show it just for giggles, as long
Okay.
as it's all right with Luke Skywalker,
Yeah, I'll give
because
him
that's amazing. You know what? I recall somebody doing it, and I didn't realize it was him, and
Yep.
that's great because he's such a good friend to us. So hopefully he'll allow us to take a look at that. And you're talking about the Citadel course, is that right?
No, this course that they're using here in
Yeah, it's
down in
called
Wisconsin.
the
Oh, that's what they call
Citadel.
it?
Yeah, the Citadel Challenge.
Ah,
Yeah, the
which is
challenge
interesting, huh?
of the Citadel. Yeah, they continually use that word Citadel.
Yeah.
Um, but here we are, and as they're leaving, this little guy is cleaning up, the maintenance man, and when you get a close look at him, he looks like the other guys because he's what they call a bad batcher. Maybe it didn't work out perfect for him, the genetic makeup, right? And you actually made this guy, didn't you? This is going to lead us into our next custom.
Yeah, I had to make them. I am a huge, like, to me, 99 is my favorite clone. Like,
Yeah.
everybody has their favorites. 99
Mm-hmm.
is my favorite.
Yeah.
I had to make them.
Mm-hmm.
It was Cutler Quain until I saw this episode.
Yep.
And it quickly became 99 because a lot of people like different clones mostly for their skill or whatever. For me, I love 99's heart. And like because of that, I had to make this character, and a lot of sculpting involved. I think I could tell you right now how many different pictures. I mean, most of the pictures I'll show probably in our next episode, because a lot of the photos I have of him are accessory shots that all have to do with what'll be happening in our next episode. But what I can do today, at least, is give a recipe for anyone who wants to try and build this guy.
Lay it on us.
Yeah, I kind of did a full breakdown here where I could pull it up. Okay, let me see if I can zoom in on this too to make it nice and big.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, so the head, I just grabbed the Clone Wars Captain Rex, and I just sculpted onto it with some Aves and green stuff. I did a little mix of both. And the upper torso is the Mandalorian police officer. And again, I used some Aves and green stuff depending on, I think I did Aves on the main part of the body, and I used green stuff on that shoulder piece that comes over. The arms are from a Quinlan Voss, and I took the shoulder pads off the Quinlan Voss with a Dremel, and that's something we call hard sculpting. The lower torso, I took the Mace Windu, and I think I did trim down that waist before I, modified it so it would attach to the 99. Hands, I have no idea whose they are. The knees, I used just the knees from the speeder bike Cad Bane. But the boots are still from the Mandalorian police officer. And then the belt I sculpted with green stuff, and then the backpack I took for Clone Wars Trooper Dra. But
awesome.
Yeah, he's basically articulated in all the sweet spots. Short, because if you watch the episode, he's significantly shorter than the other clones. He only comes up to about their shoulder. So yeah. basically that's it. But he has he can do splits, ball jointed hips, ball jointed knees, um, swivel wrists, ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows. Um, and I've actually made a mold. You have that. I sent you the head for this one, right? I made a
Sure
mold,
did.
and I have made casts for friends.
Yeah. He's basically Quasimodo with a heart of
Oh yeah.
gold. He's the guy that turns them around essentially because he just pays attention. He knows their names. He cares about them. And could you imagine that? He knows every trooper, and he looks at them in a way that it's just amazing how much he knows about these characters,
Oh yeah. He
especially.
actually comes up with like little pet names for each of them.
Right,
I thought
right.
that was kind of cool.
And he just keeps his ear open too, from everything that's going on and whatnot. So,
I
uh,
always get the impression that you ever have like a sports enthusiast and the way that
right.
they follow like baseball players or football players. I
Hmm.
almost feel like he has that kind of enthusiasm towards the clones that train there.
Yeah, he had a passion for his brothers too. I mean, he looked up to them
Very
mainly.
much.
There's even a part in this episode where you know Heavy is not very happy, and he's like, "We're defective like you," and he's like, says something to the effect that how can I be defective if I didn't really get a chance, to prove myself,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing, just his heart, and how great he is, he's so real, and we'll get back into it here. Thanks for sharing that. That was totally awesome. That's a great custom.
I think that's everything I've made. I think 99 is my favorite custom that I've ever done.
It's really a nice custom. So I appreciate you sharing that. Here we have Brick. We're seeing the problems, and he's kind of pushing them a little bit. He's picking fights with them. He's trying to find the problem, who the problem is. He knows he has problems with more than one of them, but he's just not sure who it is. So some of them get rough with him, mouth off at him, and he's just not happy because he just wants to get paid, but he doesn't really want to really invest in them. You know what I'm saying? And Shakti actually goes to Lama Su, and this is the first time we see Lama Su, which was really cool. We never did see his assistant again, did we?
No.
What was her name from Attack of the Clones?
Uh,
I can't recall for some reason. I'm drawing a blank.
Elias would know, but
Yeah,
he's good like that.
we go through a million names. It's hilarious. I can usually pull out most of the names, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But this was kind of cool that we actually saw him again, and he sounded pretty good too. But the gist of this is he's basically saying it's up to you if you want to give him one more chance on this test. Since she is kind of leading the thing, and here's that awesome trooper that they actually did make a toy of. And you can see I didn't share him this time in this episode, but you can see the ground
the flight
flight tech down there. And this is going to lead into the next custom, and these are my customs that I did. As you can see here, this is Rick basically saying the ARC troopers are coming down, and this is your final test before we send you off. And you're seeing the different troopers. And I thought it would be cool if I ran in and did some of these guys over here, the red and the yellow. And behind the green, it's actually orange, or kind of an orangish brown. I wonder why there's no blue,
Yeah. Well,
blue
you know what though? When you
blue
think about
troopers. Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like their training color was the color of the clone group that they were stationed with later on. It wasn't like everyone that was in Domino Squad ended up with Gree, or the orange all ended up with Kenobi and Cody.
That's true.
It seemed like did whatever color they wore in training didn't carry over to the other side. So maybe they just didn't even have blue.
Right. Yeah, maybe they're just the specific colors for those. And here we see our ARC troopers, and there's our Roomba again back there. There he is. He's going around the entire complex, just sweeping the floors and whatnot. And the ARC troopers, they're these elite troopers. It's kind of like the top of the chain where you want to be as a clone trooper. They're like special ops. They're almost like clone commandos, but even higher than clone commando, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought what I'd do is I did kind of and this is what we were talking about a little bit ago, where do you want to make it look as if it looked based on a Hasbro figure, or do you want to kind of give it special touches and whatnot? So I thought it'd be cool to do a more in-depth look, you know, add some scratches and whatnot. And this is ARC Trooper Havoc. And it's funny, there's a Havoc in the, you know, the episode Brain Invaders. There's actually one of the clone troopers is named Havoc is also, but I don't think they're the same guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I thought it would be cool to just do a little repaint action on him. And he actually has a removable helmet, even though I'm not showing it right now. And I can't recall where I got the helmet from, but just amazing work. You know, some of the people, one of my resolutions for this year, I definitely want to learn to mold and cast.
Oh, that'd be cool. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. So here is the same kind of deal. I thought I'd make a little bit more weathered look for Colt. Man, he was hard to get, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was fortunate that I was able to score him.
Yeah, and you got that for me as well. You got me an extra one because, believe it or not, this is going to shock you. I left him on the pegs.
I never leave anyone on the pegs if I don't have them.
I left him on the pegs because I thought, you know, I had the other guy that was kind of a generic version, and I didn't realize that there was yet another ARC trooper. So the variation, I was just going to go and I was going to do what you're seeing here, and paint that on the trooper that we got that turned out to be Clone Trooper Hammer. I found out, wow, now I need a Colt. You know, I have to have a Colt. So you definitely came through for me on that one. So I appreciate that. But this is kind of a more weathered look. I do. This was a commission I did for somebody actually. So I have the unscratched version of him. And back to this shot here, I thought it'd be cool to kind of go through and do. The red there are Bravo Squad, but I don't know what the yellow is called. So he's talking to them, and I did what you did. Basically, I kept it kind of Hasbro-esque. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Didn't do any real dirt or damage on there or anything. So I just thought I'd paint them up. And there's various ways you can paint them and everything. But I just made them the #1 clones of the squad, but I actually went in with the numbers and I just hand painted it.
Oh, nice.
It was tricky. It was tricky. It was small for sure. I see on those bigger numbers, like I guess you're talking about Echo. Echo's numbers were outrageous.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But those are some of my customs that I was doing, and we see Bravo Squad. Of course, they're the best, right? And Domino Squad is watching how they can easily move through the course because they're in unison with each other, right? And these guys are just not recognizing it right now. They don't understand that all the problems that they have together is what's keeping them from succeeding. So we realize that they have to do something about it, or maybe the bounty hunters' jobs may even be on the line too, because they're not helping them to succeed. Instead, they're trying to get rid of them, and that's not really favorable for Shock T or even the Kameenans, don't you think?
Oh yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. So even Echo and Fives, they want they want to get out of their squad, right? They want to leave Domino Squad. They just want to completely break up Domino Squad.
Oh yeah, they're like, can we ditch these losers because we're good? Just stick us with another team and we'll be fine.
Yeah, Shock T here,
but they don't realize it's their arrogance that's probably holding them back more than anything because they're not beating.
Yeah, and Shock T basically says that same thing that Yoda did. She's like, you need these guys. You are in the right place. You're exactly where you need to be. You know, so Rick finds the guy that's the problem, and it's Cut Up. Because he's not really taking things seriously. So he shakes his cage, right?
Oh yeah. Gives him a good gut punch.
Yeah, right. Meanwhile, Heavy is gonna leave. He's gonna go. He's going AWOL. He's going AWOL, right? He's going cut LaQuaid.
Absent without leave is what we like. Yeah. Yeah.
Going LaQuaid. That's what they need to call it. You know, like going Turbo from Wreck-It Ralph. You know, going Turbo. He's going LaQuaid for sure. And that's what's great about 99 is he sees this, he feels this, and he knows what's going on. So he goes in the middle of the night and he says, look, man, you don't need to do this. You need to stay with your people and show them that you're a good leader and your team will prevail. And in the end, they do prevail. And because of that, he thanks 99 and he even gives him his medal.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful, it's touching. It's really touching. You know, I really enjoyed it.
That was so touching for me. I actually fabricated the medal.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up because I had to make it. Yeah, because I didn't show that today because I think he shows the medal in the next episode.
Yeah.
But, oh man, what did I do? Okay. Oh, I see what I did. Is it over here? It might be here. Yeah, see?
Yeah,
but I ended up making them. I made the medal. The medal's a little oversized, but that was the only way I could make it so it was visible in the picture and made it so he could hold it. But there's a little magnet in his hand, and there's a magnet on the end of the medal, and I'll go more into all the magnet work that I did on him in the next episode.
Yeah, I think you need those accessories sometimes, though. You know.
Oh yeah. I really went to town with accessories on this guy.
The proper accessories instead of these build-a-guns and build-a-weapons and whatnot.
I hate the build-a-gun and the build-a-weapon stuff. Yeah. To me, it's a slap in the face when there's so many cool things that can be done with plastic. Like, we have enough landfill. Give me something that I don't want to just hide in a drawer and it's going to take up space because, yeah. There's so many cool accessories that we would want that we could use that plastic for, and it's obnoxious.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a little bit out of the Clone Wars, but I collect these Batman the Animated Series figures, and they just have the most amazing accessories I think I've ever seen. You know, like one of the cops has a half-eaten donut you can have in his hand, but he comes with handcuffs and all kinds of cool different things, and just the proper needed accessories opposed to the ones
Hasbro will do with G.I. Joe. You look at that Storm Shadows from Renegades.
Oh man, yeah.
It's like, come on, if you your company does it, so we know it's whoever's heading up Star Wars that has their head in the wrong place.
Yeah,
that's true. Where.
That's true. Yeah, we haven't been real happy with them lately, have we?
Not at all.
Yeah, we try to lift them up on this show, particularly, folks. I know there's a lot of.
Think about it. At the time of Clone Wars, Star Wars is under different management, and whoever was managing it at that time, it was oh man, I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. He's in G.I. Joe now. Daryl DePriest.
Yeah.
I want him back in Star Wars so bad. I couldn't tell you because he really knew what he was doing, and it's under really poor management right now.
Well, yeah. Well, that I have to share your same feelings. We don't want to make it a rant show necessarily, folks, but there's always these issues that we run into these days, and I think it's ending the hobby. You know, it's really putting a kink in the hobby. But we try to do. We like to do characters that look like they could coexist with the characters that the toy line that came out at the time. So while, you know, I'm sure customizing 6-inch is cool, you know, we're probably just going to do it the way it looked when it came out. And as you saw that last picture, basically they had succeeded. They passed their tests and they were able to move on, and they were basically graduating.
Yep.
And that is the episode, Clone Cadets. Hope you enjoyed that.
Sorry for the rants on the end.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do
you notice I just bought a bunch of I just got the latest wave from Rogue One, and the only accessory out of those like large accessories that even fit like only one character out of like 6 was an accessory that was actually like used in a film, which was Bodhi Rooks. He has that backpack with the that communications cable that he uses. That was the only accessory out of those large size accessories that actually made sense. And then I have all these extra big clunky guns that, you know, a figure really can't hold without falling over completely. It's not like they give us stands anymore. So I do apologize. It's just a wound that's very fresh after this weekend of opening up a case and just getting a whole handful of junk I don't need.
Yeah. And we're going to just be real, folks. I mean, I think it's okay to talk about it a little bit, you know, to talk about.
Yeah. We won't do the whole episode.
Yeah, right. It's fair. It's fair. I mean, we are customers, right?
Yeah.
This era.
Oh, very much so. I probably buy more than the average collector because I do customize.
This era of it's the name. It's not the people who follow it. It's not the dedication. I don't know where that's coming from. You know, that they just sell it based on the name. You know, it's Star Wars. You just need to buy it, and they don't necessarily care what we think or really care to throw us a bone, if you will. You know, I guess the 3 3/4 inch is throwing us a bone. You know, they could not make it at all, I suppose. But I hear you, man. I hear you. That's a good point. Good point. All right. Well, thanks for joining us once again, folks. We have some great things coming up. I am your host, Peak Obi-Wan from Peak Obi-Wan Custom Creations. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. On Instagram, I am known as Peak Obi-Wan Custom Figures. Please check me out. I'm always adding new photos, and it's absolutely fun to put my toys on that app. So where can we find you while you're not here?
Probably the best place to locate me, I would say, would be on my blog, the customs for the kid.blogspot.com. Once you go over to the blog, you'll basically be able to see all the different other venues that we end up showing our work on. If you go to the blog, all the figures that we make are over here at the Action Figure Index. From there, you could also get access to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. We're also on Pinterest. We're on Google+, but that's basically it. Those are, oh, did I say Pinterest? I don't remember. But yeah, so yeah, that's basically the places you can find us. And awesome. I guess until next week, may the force be with you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.